What the Bruins have just done is what losers do.
On to the second round. We got the Leafs. Who's next?
Losers. As opposed to the Florida Panthers, who could have done the exact same thing, laid down the last couple of games. Instead, last night, the Florida Panthers are down 2-0, and they come back. They score 5 unanswered, win going away to draw a harder matchup in the first round. That's a team to respect, as opposed to you, who laid down for 2 games.
I got to go in that kitchen and see if I can find a punch bowl so you can drop a big turd in it in the next commercial break.
I don't understand the reference, Murray.
You're a turd in a punch bowl. This is what we wanted. This is the best thing possible for the Bruins.
That's what you wanted.
No, it's what rational people, the right people, those of us that know that the best chance for the Bruins to win in the first round is to get the Toronto Maple Leafs. They engineered it correctly these last couple of games, got some help from the Panthers. We got it. I can't believe it. They listened.
It's fascinating. I think they categorically laid down to start the last 2 games.
Without question, zero effort.
That freaking thing in Washington. 8 shots through the first 2 periods.
Yep.
Only to be outdone last night. 3 shots in the first period. 3.
And remember, they had a game against Carolina like that, too, where they had 10 shots after 2 periods.
So when was that?
That was 2 games before the Washington game. These are all in the last, basically, week and a half.
Okay. So I don't think they were tanking back then.
They didn't show up that day either.
Okay. How many games were left in the season when they did that?
I don't know. It was 2 games before the Washington game.
So if you think they've been doing this for 2 weeks...
I think they've been playing like garbage for a little while,
Well,
yeah.
it's different. I think they quit. So playing with garbage is different.
Well, I'm sorry it didn't make your point.
Well, no, it's just... well, go ahead.
No. I think they played like garbage for a while. The only game that they played well in the last 2 weeks was Pittsburgh. And even then, that's debatable.
So I'm not saying it's garbage. I think they quit. I think they purposely been tanking the last 2 nights.
So if they quit and they're tanking, why did they try to win in the third period last night?
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I didn't have my headset on.
He said...
why'd they try in the third period?
Why did they try in the third period?
Oh, I was getting there. So that the third period did have me confused, and I have a theory on that.
Oh.
At some point, someone said, "Guys, this is embarrassing what we're doing," and someone gave them a wake up call. Like,
Probably the coach.
Is this really what we want to be? Is this really what we want to do? So blatantly give up in the last 2 games of the year just because we want a better first round playoff matchup? Like, it was looking really bad on them. And I do separate the last 2 Mavs from what was before. I just do, because it's hard to sort of engineer a finish with 4 games to go. But with 2, it's sort of right in front of you. And I just think that's what they did. And so I can't explain the third period when they really did pour it on. But did they finally just say to themselves, this is really beneath us or a bad look? And they just said, all right, you know what? We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're going to go down fighting. So maybe that's what happened. I don't know. The third period was confusing. But I think in general, they engineered their second place finish, which is what losers do. My opinion. Your thoughts?
So it's the karma aspect. You're worried about this, or are you just going
definitely.
You're full on like I'm rooting for the Leafs?
No, I'm not. No, of course
Kind
not.
of sounds leafy over there.
No, definitely not. I'm going to pick the Leafs, but not out of spite, just because. Well, I mean, karma a little bit. I mean, that's not really that's not a tangible take, but teams that tend to do that tend to not win. It's just the way that is. If you gotta lay down to get a better opponent, and you lay down and you kind of purposely lose, then you're a loser and you lose. Like, that's just sort of how I feel about that.
What about the Golden Knights and their salary cap shenanigans last year? Wouldn't that be in line for some sort of karmic retribution?
How? What are you talking about? That's not even close.
You know what I'm talking about. If you're talking about sports karma, Mike,
that's not it.
People get pissed about that. They understand. They feel like they're circumventing the cap in some way, so they get players back. They end up winning the cup. That shouldn't have happened if you believe in your stupid sports karma.
That's cheating to win. That's different.
So the karmic gods can deal with that one, but not laying down to engineer a better opponent for you?
See the New England Patriots.
No, you're just trying to make this... See the New England Patriots. So if you believe in sports karma and Brady should have showed his phone and blah, 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 they cheated. They shouldn't have won the title in 2016.
That's what I know. I don't understand why neither of you can understand where I'm coming from.
I understand where you're coming from. What are you talking about?
Intentionally losing is different than cheating to try and win. There's the
How both should piss off the sports gods.
Not really. Cheating, the teams that push the boundaries and push the rules, those teams, it doesn't come back to bite them always. I think the teams that lose to win, it usually doesn't work out for them. Whether you're tanking for a draft pick intentionally losing games at the end of a year to get a better first-round opponent. I think those teams are tempting the hockey gods. The ones that try and circumvent the cap, I don't think that. No, I think that's been going on. I just don't view them the same. So I mean, what can I tell you?
I just don't eliminate the possibility that they could just have their heads up their asses and not really care about what these last few games are like. And the other part of the story that I find interesting, I don't know, is it possible Toronto kind of tanked last night when they were up 2-0 and decided to give it away because they saw the Bruins in their headlights?
Interesting.
So I wonder about that. Like, so look, again, the Bruins chose what they chose. And I don't disagree necessarily with either one of you. I get the logic Murray's saying, and I understand it from both sides. I'm going to walk the line. I am going to walk the line is what I'm going to do. But here's what I'll say to the Bruins. Oh, you better not lose. You better not lose now.
God, you lay down to draw the opponent. It's so right, Maz. And then you lose to him. And that's what I think is going to happen. I mean, I don't feel strongly about it. I mean, it's going to be a 7-game series. The teams are pretty even. They're constructed a little differently. There's reasons you should beat them. But how many times? So basically, you're just going to sit back and wait for the Leafs again to puke down the front of their sweaters.
Yeah.
How many times is that? Can you keep counting on that?
Maybe.
At some point. At some point.
I'm only half joking.
No, but I know what you mean. But like at some point, I have another, sort of sports belief that every dog has their day.
Sure.
I say that all the time. The more you say they'll never win, they'll never do it. Eventually, if they knock at the door enough, they're going to do it. Law of averages, that kind of stuff. I mean, everyone remembers 2013. But every time, you've beaten them 3 times here since 2013. Every time Toronto was in command of the series or Game 7, 2013, they were obviously up 3 goals late in the third period. In 2018, they were up 4-3 entering the third period. And then in 2019, I think they were up 3-2, and you had to come back and win the last 2 games, which you did handily. But they were in command all 3 times. So you needed them to crap their pants for you to advance. Are they just going to keep crapping their pants, or what? Is there going to be one answer?
Yeah,
maybe.
It's baked into the sweaters. This is why I wanted them. Yeah, no, there's been times where, this looks dire. Leafs got them on the ropes, and then the Leafs do Leafs things, and they blow it. That's what I expect to happen again in this series. I think it'll go 7. I'm taking the Bruins because the Leafs are going to F it up.
Haven't they only won like one playoff series in the last 10 years or something?
And that was last year. Okay. I think they beat the Lightning last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
So it was, I think it was their first one in like 18 years.
Something ridiculous like that.
I looked at this last night. I just briefly, I think they've won 2 series this decade, or the
millennium.
In the last 20 years, they've won 2 series. So no, they're bigger losers than you. They're bigger chokers than you. They're softer than you. And they match up well. You've handled them this year. It's a kind of team that plays perfectly into you, where they're soft in net, they're soft behind their blue line, they're soft in general. They've tried to get tougher with guys like Bertuzzi and Domi and Reeves, but it's not who they are. So they're kind of like, it's like they're faking it. It's fake tough. Remember the game they had where they got like all those sort of fights, and and Toronto's trying to put that on. It's like stop it. That's not you. The leaf on the front of your sweat. It's not who you are. That's not your DNA. So I get it. Like I know it. They still are better offensively than you. I'd give you the edge in net, but what does that matter for? You've had the edge in net for 20 years. That's worked out once. Okay, and not every year, but you know what I mean. You had the edge in net last year. You had the edge in net the year before. You have the edge in net. You always have the edge in net, just about. So what does that do? You've lost to some subpar goaltending over the years. I hate to break it to you. Where on paper you should have had the Panthers last year went through 2 guys. I know what Bobrovsky is, but he was on the bench to start the series. So what does a goaltending edge mean? It's going to come down to Game 7, and you're just going to sit back and wait for the Leafs to gag again?
Yes.
Hell of a plan. Hell of a plan right there.
It might be the only option. Seriously, I mean, I admit it's kind of lame Like you're relying on the opponent to lose.
It's lame.
And I've said this historically, by the way, with every team in town. There's nothing worse than, looking at it and say, well, they can't do this. They can't. All right, so then you're relying on the opponent to suck. What does that say for you?
Thank you.
So, but in this particular case, it might be the best way to go.
Well, so then that third period last night was interesting. Like, were they even ashamed? Were they starting to feel shame with the way they handled these last two games? Shame. And the reason I don't include Carolina, Maz, is because Pittsburgh was in between, where they kept coming back and going back and forth. So it was pretty clear they weren't laying down in that Pittsburgh game. But Washington, that was a skate in the park, and then they did it again last night. And then they get into the third period. It's like, did they suddenly say to themselves, we're embarrassing ourselves. This is not what we are. I hope that's what that was.
My guess is the coach lit into him. That'd be my guess. I mean, again, how do you explain it otherwise? So all of a sudden, basically, how many shots did they have going in the third? 10?
I think it was 11, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I know it was 3 in the first period.
Yeah, it was pathetic. Really, it was pathetic early on in that game. And so my guess is that the coach said, do you guys even want to play this game, or do you want to just quit now? You want to go home? Like, what do you want to do? You want to quit?
But I thought he would be in on it. Like, I think Montgomery and the whole organization was in on it. I don't know. Yes, Jimmy?
Monty's been saying on the pregame show that they haven't been playing very well with Beersy and Surratt. And the fact is that if the Bruins don't get out of the first round, the coach is gone.
I know.
So the coach should have lit into them at some point, because he's going to lose his job if they don't get out of the first round.
Okay. Who does he have a better chance to get out of the first round against?
Toronto.
The Leafs.
Yeah.
So I think Montgomery was in on it.
I don't.
I think Montgomery was in on it. I think they all were in on it. Because they did that thing in Washington, and then they did it even worse last night. And then somewhere between the second and third, I hope it's the players.
That would be my guess. But anyway, I'm just, what do I know?
So you think it is the players?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I can't imagine a coach ever saying to his team, let's coast here and shut it down.
No. So again, we're misfiring. I think the coach and the organization, everyone was in on the shutdown, and it was the players going into the third who said, this is beneath us. We're not going to do this. That's what I wonder. Montgomery, I agree. If Montgomery loses this series, he's fired. They're going to blame him. They're going to scapegoat him. They're going to blame him. He's out. So he has to win a round. So tank and get Toronto. It's a better matchup for him. I mean, again, I'm making all this crap up.
No, I understand.
But I just thought the last two nights were so pathetic. Pathetic. And it has me down on them.
I need clarity on something before you go to break.
Go ahead.
So if you lose to win, that's bad. But if you cheat to win, that's good in the eyes of the sports gods.
Well, not good, but they don't hold it against you like intentionally losing.
Okay.
The gods like cheating, Jimmy.
Well, the gods.
Well, but I understand his point.
No, I mean, trying to win is trying to win.
One is being almost too competitive. The other's not being competitive at all.
I'll still rip you for cheating and call you a cheater, and cheaters shouldn't win, but cheaters sometimes win. Fact.
Quitting's worse.
Cheaters sometimes win.
Quitting is worse.
See your New England Patriots, among others. Cheaters win. At least sometimes.
So we go back to the old Jesse the Body Ventura thing of win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat and try not to get caught.
Yeah, pretty much.
I guess. This is, to me, a side topic. Quitters and losers almost always lose in my mind.
All I know is so rarely get what I want nowadays, especially when it comes to sports, and I got what I wanted. I put this into the ether. Maybe I'm a sports god. Guys, engineer it so you tank. And they listen. This is the best.
Murray's the sports god.
Oh, yeah, no, God help us all.
We're starting Bruins. Your thoughts right after this.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Maz here. For more Bruins analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.